Hi everyone, Dr. Schwann here with Dreaming Big, and our guest for this show is a former foster parent of mine, and really is not, I don't look at her as a foster parent anymore, almost as a parent in a way, Dolores Panter. So I lived with Dolores here for a while as a child, and I still communicate with her and her husband Fred. So Fred and Dolores Panter are two special people in my life, but Dolores, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I took you on at a time in my life when I thought I was done with foster kids. And I only had you for probably about 2 months, but I had you in my life for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid that stayed in the community, this was one of them times when I read a book where it says it takes a village to raise a child, and with you that was the case. Everybody helped. As Jeff said, it was an experience. We didn't think of you as a foster child. We thought more of you as Jamie, part of the community.
Yeah, and I remember coming to you at in foster care here in Kensington, living in the big town of Athol, coming out there in your when you were out on the farm out there. But yeah, the community here is just something special, and I want to talk on the show a little bit about the community, but I wanted to really, the reason I'm here talking to you is almost as a coming to thank you for the time as a foster parent, because if you and Fred in this community saved my life, so I wanted to thank you, and then I wanted to also get you on camera to get your advice. I mean, there's so much good advice. You were a foster parent for so long, and you just did stuff right. It was the Bob Beerley told me, he made the comment of it being a common sense, like you just had common sense, you thought about it, and you didn't wait for someone to tell you how to do something, you just did it. And that's some of the wisdom I wanted to kind of draw out. But did you ever think when I was staying with you all that time ago that we'd be sitting here talking about it on TV?
Like I said, you was with me at the end of my time, but I always knew you could. You had a brother that didn't want anything to do with doing better, and you always did. Even when you sometimes would give me a bad time, you wanted more than what you was showing.
Yeah, I remember. I have some really fun moments. Just and I don't think other people think they were fun, but I just remember being at your house, and I remember Fred. You would give Fred a hard time if he wouldn't go to bed at a certain time, and he would take a nap during the day. And I would hear you yelling at him to wake up, just trying to take a nap. And just those moments, like I remember that, cooking meals for me, just everything about it was just great memories, and
I think you like me best because I made beef and noodles.
Oh, yes.
And you love mashed potatoes and beef and noodles. No, Jamie, I didn't think of you as a foster child. I never did. I never took any into my home that I thought of as a foster child. You come there and you were part of the family. If you did wrong, you knew it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you did good, you knew it. And I only had one girl at one time, and I have to bring her up on this show because she is another one of the people that made something of her life after she left foster care. She became an LPN, and she was flunking in high school every subject she took when she was at our house. But she made it. And she used to try to pull tricks, and one time she didn't go to class. And I got called from the schoolhouse, and she says, "I suppose you're going to send me on." That's what foster kids think. That's what foster kids think the minute they cross the line, that you're going to be sent someplace else. I said, you wouldn't be here in the first place if I didn't care. And I'm sure not dumping you on somebody else. Just get your act together and we'll make it work. And we did.
Something about you cared, and that's where, as kids, yeah, you think, okay, especially if you get sent to numerous homes, you're going to think, okay, what's next? Where am I going now that I messed up? And yeah, you just slap in the back of the head and said, no, you're staying here. You're just going to get better. And it was a common sense approach. You didn't even think about it.
Yeah, now, Jamie, you say we slap you on the back of the head, and I don't think anybody got slapped on the back of the head, but I think
probably not.
They probably got
Probably should have.
Probably should have, but I have a pretty strong voice, and it probably
yeah.
felt like a slap on the back of the head.
And we'll talk. Let's talk about your voice and some of your ideas for foster care. We'll come back from a commercial break here, so we'll take a brief commercial, come back, and we'll finish this fun discussion. All right?
Okay.
So we'll be back after this commercial break. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Dreaming Big. So we're here in our second part of it with Dolores Panter. So Dolores is a former foster parent of mine, and Dolores, I was thinking during the break of when we were placed into your home. I remember we were told we were going to come stay with you temporarily just for one night, and I was talking to someone in school, and I was telling them we were going to stay with. I can't remember who I was talking to, and I mentioned Dolores Panter, and you were driving a school bus at the time. And then they had me terrified about you because of how loud you could be. And so I remember thinking, approaching you, and I was just terrified. But then it was so different. You're loud, and and it's kind of like you're gonna make sure kids behave, but it's great. Like, I don't know, it's so weird to explain. And so I just thought it was funny being told that about Dolores, and then next thing you know, we fell in love with the person. So.
Well, if you rode the school bus with me and you got into trouble, I stopped the bus, and if it was 100 degrees outside and you had to be quiet for a whole minute along the side of the road, you didn't stop too many buses.
Yeah.
It was too hot. But yes, I grew up in a family of 8 kids, and I was in the middle child, so you had to be loud to be heard.
Yeah.
So I expect that's part of the reason of my volume. But to me, a child's a child. It don't make any difference where they come from. They're all God's children. And hey, I never did see any bad children that didn't usually have a reason for being that way. Now, I agree, we can't save every child. But you came as a foster child because we wanted you there. I could have said no, but your
social workers, right?
social worker
Kurt
was pretty adamant that he wanted you to finish in the Kensington district, and that was going to be 6 weeks, so you and your brother came, and we had you for 6 weeks. And I think you thought of me as a disciplinarian, and you thought of Fred as next to God, because he would do anything for you kids, and that's the way he was with kids.
Well, I think we thought of Fred as almost like one of us, but like, okay, Fred knows he can't get in trouble either. He's going to get yelled at. So he was one of us, I think. So, but no, he was still like, he gave us, he was a role model for us. And I think that was where I remember Fred the most. He was the role model, and we knew if we made Fred upset, he may not have yelled at us, but you could tell when he's upset and you felt disappointed. Like, we didn't want to disappoint him. We didn't want to disappoint you either, but we didn't want to disappoint you, and we also didn't want to get yelled at by you. Fred, we just didn't want to disappoint, and but I wanted to get some wisdom from you here. So if you were in charge of foster care, like if you had foster care for a day, or you had a magic wand or something, what would Dolores Panter do to improve the system?
I don't know. I just know that too many kids don't feel like they're loved when they go into foster care. And I guess, to me, we talked about this earlier before we started on the air about dirty homes and clean homes. I don't think the home is so important if there's love in the home. And if they truly want this child to be there, and they take care of their emotional needs and their physical needs. Because even as a foster child, if you send a foster child who has not have too good a background into a home they're not going to survive there, because they're never going to be the expectation of the person that took them. Love them for who they are, and give them the best you got to give.
That's great advice. What would you say to the leaders that are in charge of the policymakers?
Well, I think they're looking at the wrong thing. They're looking at a perfect house with a perfect home, and there is no such thing. We could have a perfect escape for fire, and we could have a perfect step so somebody didn't trip. It isn't going to happen. I'm old. I can trip over this doorstep going out here, But it don't mean that the doorstep's to blame.
No, Fred's to blame, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he wasn't there to hold my hand.
There you go. Yeah. No, that is great advice. What are they missing though? Like what I think they're missing, they're not talking to you. They're not talking to the people where they should be. Instead, I had an interview with another individual talking about foster care. We're talking about this same subject, and he said he had social workers come to his house to tell him how to do things, and he had 140 people come through children come through his house. He was doing respite care. Why were they coming and telling him how to do it? They should have been coming and saying, how are you doing it? Like,
yes.
What advice can we get from you? That's what I don't understand, and it's driving me insane sometimes when I think about why it's common sense, and that's what this community, that's what you bring, is that common sense approach. And that's why getting you to even think about, well, how did I do it? I don't know. I just do it. It's common sense, and that's what they miss, I guess. I don't know.
Well, to me, we did it because we always have liked children, all kinds. I never kept any babies. I always felt I was too old. I didn't get into this till I was probably in my 60s.
You had one living with you, so.
Who?
Fred.
Oh.
So.
Well, quit your picking on Fred.
Well, he's not here, so I can pick on him, right? So.
He'll get even with you when he gets here.
Yeah. I was trying to think of one last piece of advice that I wanted to get from you. Is there anything that you can think of as I rack my brain trying to remember what I was trying to ask you?
I don't know, but if you're talking about how I feel about foster parents, I think foster parents have to be able to give a little too. I watched a film when I started doing this, and you got to pick your battles with these kids. These kids have had a tough life, and the thing she said that impressed me most was, pick your battles. If it isn't illegal, immoral, or life-threatening, pick your battle. Them things they're not battles. You have to step down and make them stick. But the rest of the time don't nitpick with the kids. Don't nitpick with them. If it's a no, it's a no, and if it's a yes, it's a yes.
No, that's really good advice, and I think that's the common sense approach. That's let the foster parent think about it, the situation, put things in perspective. What's right for the kid, not what's right for a checklist, right? Mm-hmm. I remember what I was gonna mention. So the community and the communication, and I remember for when I was living with you all and the situation, there was another person that was very special, or two other people, and one that has passed away. Clella Hahn, my CASA worker, like just the communication, everybody was involved. Everybody had they wanted the best interest for me.
Yes, when we had you, Lowell Hahn was your lawyer. Every child has a lawyer, and he was in my class, and Clella was his wife, and she was your CASA worker. Mm-hmm. And we worked together to try to help you to get through school and be in the community. You lived in a number of homes, not just me, mm-hmm. while you was in high school. But I can remember times when you'd call and you'd be a little mad with the situation, and I think we'd talk it through, and you'd stay another day. 2 or 3 of your foster people that tried to take care of you, you were at a bad age, mm-hmm. and you kind of give them a bad time. But most of them always still think of you as one of their kids.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things. I've kept a relationship with almost every one of them. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so I think we'll end the interview there. But this has been one of those that I've wanted to have this conversation for a long time, and I wanted to make sure that you get put on TV. That there's documented. Hey, Dolores Panter, this is how she did it. Try to replicate that. Like, do this, and maybe you'll be a good foster parent. But I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, and I know we'll chat after the show. But I appreciate everything you did, you and Fred, the whole community. You're a very special person in my life, and even my wife, and my little girl. So you'll always be, a special person that we talk about. So thank you.
Just remember, as a foster parent, just do what's right in your heart, and that'll work.
That's powerful advice, and that's common sense advice. Mm-hmm. Hi everyone, Dr. Schwann here with Dreaming Big, and my guest right now is Fred Panter. So Fred was one of my foster parents, and we interviewed his wife, Dolores Panter, just a few moments ago. And Dolores and Fred, I talked about Dolores. You two were very special in my life, and you two saved my life. You know, living with you in foster care, you guys were very powerful and influential people in our life. And when I was telling Dolores, the real reason I wanted, the selfish reason to get you two on here on TV, which I bet you never thought we'd be talking on TV here.
Never had.
I wanted to thank you, and thank you and Dolores for everything you did for saving my life. But with that, I want to be quiet, and I want to let you talk a little bit, share your advice. I want you to tell the audience a little bit about your military career, and we have the military connection with me serving the military as well, and the foster care connection. And we'll try not to say too much, otherwise, I don't want to get you in trouble with Dolores. So.
Well, that could be done pretty easy. But the main thing about foster care is we want to thank you for being with us and helping you get through the situation is one of the better things that has happened in my life.
Oh, thank you.
You sure are welcome. About the military part of the deal, during the time of some of the youngsters staying with us, I really encourage them when we aren't in war to be able to go into the military and getting into a situation where they might get a job that are working for them after they get out. And another thing about the military, it takes 2 or 4 years of getting older into life and helping decide to get what you want to do after you're out. And that has been one of my real advices to our youngsters as they graduate out of high school and get out of the system of being foster care.
Mm-hmm. So no, I think that's great advice, and I agree with it 100%. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But share with us a little bit about, so what did you do in the Army? I know what you did, but share with the audience what your job was and what you did.
Well, I really wasn't a special kind of a job, anything. I started boot camp through the infantry, then went to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and into the artillery.
Now, were you in the north or south?
What is that?
No, I was joking about the Civil War.
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't make too much difference. But anyway, after I went through artillery school, I got thinking about, I was always rowdy and wild around home, so I decided to join the paratroopers. And that was another 3 weeks of training that we took, and we were in excellent shape for that there. We had to make the 30-mile march for on payday to get paid, and do it in 6 or 8 hours running and full packing that. And as I got, you have to make 5 jumps before you qualify for your wings, and seemed like every time I went, got into trouble, I was on the jump schedule, so I made 5 other ones in less than 5 months. So by Christmas time, I got my wings in July, and by Christmas time, I was getting to not enjoy it near as much, so I marked off, and I got my orders to go to Germany shortly after that.
Now, were you and Dolores married during this time, or?
No, I met her when we was home on leave one time before I went to Germany, and then we kept in contact till I got out and came back home, and then was seeing her and got married almost a year later.
Did that make you jump out of any other airplanes when you came back?
No, that I never had landed in a plane then, and till after we got our daughter was in California, then I went on a plane to land there.
So the military for you, for the military for me, prepared me to be a the foster care system prepared me to be in the military. With all the
Yes,
moving.
that is an excellent.
But I think for you, the military prepared you for life with Dolores, right?
That could happen that way, all right.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wild through my childhood, or later on, that I was about like getting into trouble quite a little, so that kept me. That's the reason why I encouraged them to go in and keep away from home for.
So we got structure from the same place.
Yes,
Yeah.
I kind of think that might be what you're talking about. You are so great.
And then your comments about the military and foster care, like there is a connection there. So for me, like I was saying, it, you know, all the moving, the seeing tragedy, you know, my father committing suicide, just it prepares you for, without even knowing it, for a life in the military. So like, you know, when I got in the military, you know, it was obviously a big change, and I was 17 when I did it. So obviously you're going into boot camp at 17, and but I was used to moving. I was used to seeing, you know, horrible situations where other kids, when they went to the military, they were, you know, they'd curl up in balls because they'd never left before, and where, you know, and then later on when I had a friend tragically was killed in action, you know, it's never good, but you know, living in a difficult life, I was, you know, it wasn't anything new, I guess, but it prepared you for that life, and it's a great option. And your comment that I didn't really think about with when you leave foster care, you know, even for me, like I left the system, and well, technically I wasn't in the system, but I left, and you're kind of there to do your own thing. If I didn't have the military to like rein me in, just like any normal kid, you leave and you need that. There's still that growing up time. The military was there for me to rein me in. So
That's my point too. It helps you in the guiding, getting older and going into life in a few more adult life in a few more years.
have you ended your adult life yet?
Boy, I tell you, it's getting tired out a little faster than usual.
Yeah. Is there any last bit of advice that you have, Fred?
No, I think we got to admire our social workers and stuff, that they take so much of their valuable time working through the system to get the foster kids into some home or something before they can go ahead and grow up in life and make something out of it like you have.
Well, any kid would have been lucky to live with you all, and the two of you and Dolores were special people, and you did a phenomenal job.
We're so thankful for you, Jamie. You're just like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, well, thank you. With that, Fred, I'm going to let you close out the show. So if you want to tell the audience, you know, thank you, and give them a little plug that we talked about before.
Oh, okay, dokie. We've kind of agreed to. Jamie has finished his show with God Bless the USA. Lee Greenwood, after 911, had his favorite song that he sang, God Bless the USA. And I just admire that song tremendously. And with that, I'll say I've enjoyed the interview with Jamie, and God bless the USA.
God bless the USA, yeah. So thank you, and thank you all for tuning in.